Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Thursday, August 6th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5-ish. Back on routine, Thursday. Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Steve, thank you for putting off your workout this morning to talk with us.
Good morning, Daniel. Sending rain towards Dayton and Columbus if it's not already there. Raining here in Indianapolis.
It has arrived, and if not, here it comes. I can see it. We're gray in the Gem City. Unfortunately, that's our standard color. But we digress. I don't want to waste any time here. If it's the Buckeyes and it's recruiting, it's been an eventful week. Got plenty of stuff to talk about. Guys leaving, more rumors of guys leaving, rumors of guys coming in. Let's start with the primary story of the week. Excuse me. Washington, D.C. defensive end Terrell Hall, a wonderkind from St. John's Military College High School. And he's first off the bus, has decommitted from Ohio State, apparently visited and wore an Alabama T-shirt. That set off a series of internet wranglings that ended with him decommitting. Steve, your opinion on the whole situation, how you saw it go down, just your general impression of the Terrell Hall decommitment.
I believe that we don't become fully functioning in the male race till we're 25 years old. So anything you do before it, as long as you don't commit a felony, you can bounce back from it, and it can just be chalked up as immaturity. But to wear a T-shirt of another school to a school where you are committed to is just embarrassing for Terrell to carry himself in that fashion. And it is what it is. I mean, a lot of people have said it on the Bucknuts message board. I can't add any more insight than that. Just unbelievable, really. I mean, just disrespectful. The Ohio State coaching staff has put in a lot of time and effort to get to know this young man and his family and his coaches and recruit him and show him that they, have a future laid out for him in Columbus. And I'm not saying Terrell needs to take that future. He's got options. This is the time where he has all the power to make the best decision for him. But you do that in the right way. And I'm not saying that decommitting is wrong, because it certainly isn't. But the build-up to the decommitment was certainly embarrassing. And for him, not for Ohio State. Ohio State's going to be just fine whether Terrell Hall plays football for the Buckeyes or not. And I can understand why they want him. He is an elite talent, in my opinion, a top 50 player, a guy with some serious upside as a prospect, a guy that, if he were to play for a Larry Johnson-type coach with that pedigree, he certainly would have had a great chance of developing what is an outstanding prospect. But I kind of lost my train of thought there. But my overall point is Ohio State's going to be fine whether Terrell Hall plays football for them or not.
Do you believe the Buckeyes still want Terrell Hall in this class as of right now?
Well, I've seen it reported that they do. I haven't dug in to that angle myself, but that just goes into my original point that Terrell is still a kid, so you can wipe the slate clean from anything that's pretty much not a felony, in my opinion. And so if Terrell were to come back and be genuine about a mistake that he made, sure, and who knows, maybe he doesn't even have to apologize for it. Maybe it's just water under the bridge, I mean, for me, he's a tremendous talent, and you put together a recruiting class with Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bosa, and Terrell Hall, along with Malik Barrow on your defensive line. That's a pretty damn good haul. And I could see why Ohio State would want to bring all those guys in together. And maybe Terrell in a month feels differently about Ohio State than he does today. So I could see it, but it just came across to me as so disrespectful. I don't think these kids realize the amount of time that these coaches put in to their recruitment, and guys like me, I do, because I cover thousands of recruitments where these young men are going through it for the first time and only time. They don't have a point of reference, so they don't realize that when Urban Meyer takes a phone call of yours, he's walking out of a room where he may have been having a conversation with his wife or may have been doing something with his family, or when Larry Johnson, same thing. Those kids don't realize the sacrifices that these college coaches make. Now, don't get me wrong, these college coaches are well compensated to make these sacrifices, but it still is time that they're putting in to recruiting kids, and then when they go and do something disrespectful like that, it's just disappointing. Now, at the same time, I don't think that these kids put that much deep thought into that when they do these things, because they have no idea, so you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, man. That's a really insightful point. If people want to get smarter, they should rewind the podcast and listen to that statement again, because I think you captured a lot of people don't get to see of the human side of the coaching that we've been fortunate to be exposed to through years of being on the beat. Here's my question for you. I said on the Bucknuts 90 over the weekend it would be the best, prior to Hall's decommitment, would be the best defensive end Hall or defensive end grouping that I've ever seen. And I almost even forgot to put Hall in the group. If I were to rank the three of them, and I have said this publicly, I think, before Hall decommitted. I don't want to sound like hindsight's 20/20 or have a jaundiced eye here, but I would go Bosa, Cooper, Hall. How would you have ranked them in terms of you were adding them to the program that you were running in a vacuum before the decommitment?
Well, from a straight high school football player perspective, you have the order correct. Bosa, Cooper, Hall in that order of where they're at as players today. And you may be right with that ranking, but Hall's upside is tremendous if it all comes together under the right defensive line coach, because he's got tremendous size, length, and athletic ability. He's just not the same football player today that Bosa and Cooper are. But his upside, his ceiling is in that same ballpark of being a high first-round draft pick if it all comes together.
Interesting. I said this on the message boards, and this is something people should know, and you know. Terrell Hall's from the D.C. area. I had the good fortune of kind of cutting my teeth as a preps reporter there for about a decade, way back in the day. Recruiting in the DMV, especially in the district, is the Wild West. It's unlike any other place. Keep in mind, there's no college in D.C. for anybody to go to when it comes to football. There's not really an allegiance in the immediate area to the University of Maryland, which would be considered the only school within hailing distance from a Division I perspective. It is open season. So this does not surprise me at all. Michigan State has a commitment from a running back named Abdul Adams into the D.C. area. Go look at his crystal ball and see what's flipping up right now. So this is par for the course. I'm not saying we shouldn't recruit D.C., especially when we have Larry Johnson on board, who at least when he was at Penn State, he was the most dominant recruiter on the Eastern Seaboard right there. But this is par for the course in D.C. All right, we're going to move on to the next interesting topic. There are rumors that another member of the class 2016 at Ohio State could be headed elsewhere, and it is kind of an obvious rumor that Alex Gleitman reported on months and months and months ago, and that's that George Hill could be wavering, the kind of running back, wide receiver, possible H-back out of Youngstown, thought to be possibly having an eye on Michigan State. What do you know about that situation, Steve?
Well, it's not a rumor. I mean, it's fact. We've talked about it on the Bucknuts Morning 5. It's been all over Bucknuts. It's been all over every Ohio State market that there's absolutely no question that George Hill is interested in Michigan State. The debate has always been to what degree. And George has been in regular communication with the Spartans for the entire process, even since his verbal commitment to Ohio State. It's obviously heated up in this time now, so things look like there's some momentum going in Michigan State's direction. You know, I had a Michigan State source tell me months ago that George Hill wanted to come to Michigan State and play defensive back with all the success that the Spartans have had at that position and developing young men into being high draft picks at that position. So sifting through what's accurate and what's maybe accurate. It's tough sometimes, and then him staying committed to Ohio State through and through. I've said it here. If George Hill signs with Michigan State, there's absolutely going to be no surprise here. But so that that's the stance that I've had, and that's the way I feel. I don't know when it would drop or when he would flip. But the interest in Michigan State has been very consistent for the whole process, and everyone knows it. So it's not a rumor; it's fact.
Yeah, there are members of we know this. There are members of the Michigan State staff who believe George Hill going to be a Spartan. People need to keep this in mind. There are two other factors here, I think, that are at play. The kind of obvious ones that we maybe haven't addressed. One is a running back from his high school, L.J. Scott, has a very good chance to start as a true freshman at Michigan State. He's in the mix. Mark D'Antonio was asked yesterday. They've kind of got a quartet of dudes going out for it. First name out of his mouth was L.J. Scott, and D'Antonio mentioned his recruiting pedigree, which I'd never heard him say before, so it kind of sounded like he was justifying the decision. And I kind of see this as the Terrell Hall thing again, where I look at the Kareem Walker and DeMario McCall. I think George Hill looks at that and says, listen, I'm the third best, explosive athlete who's going to get in this class. And it's just like Terrell Hall. He was going to be I don't think Terrell Hall would have started over Cooper or Bosa. That's my opinion. So I think, is it possible he's just looking from a football perspective and saying there might be better opportunities for me elsewhere? Do you think that's possible? It's the depth chart. Could it be possible that the depth chart of Alabama and the depth chart of Michigan State are so much more appealing to these two dudes that's why they're bailing, if they bail?
Well, I was told that George Hill was very much in the know that at Ohio State he would never sit in a running back meeting room. So comparing him to DeMario and Kareem, I don't think
see it
is relevant,
okay.
Because he was going to play, the slot. So I just think that Michigan State hung in there, and they've had, even before LJ, they've landed kids out of Hubbard, and there's a great trust factor with Michigan State in that high school football program. And that's where, where George Hill's interest comes from. And he committed to Ohio State, an in-state kid that, probably thought about playing for Ohio State his entire life. And then he gets to high school and he finds out Michigan State's pretty damn good too. And they're recruiting the hell out of him, and his coaches like Michigan State. And now he's maybe making a more informed decision and trying to do what's best for him. And I'm not saying it is or isn't Ohio State. I'm just saying the kid commits to the Buckeyes, probably dreamed of playing for the Buckeyes his entire life, and now it's like, I'm only going through this process once. Is Ohio State truly right for me? Michigan State may be right for me.
Makes sense. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. Couple of little things to wrap up here. Ohio State added a commitment from Gavin Cupp. Got a chance to see Cupp at Friday Night Lights. What do you think of him as a prospect?
Well, I named him one of the elite, the best of the best at Friday Night Lights. There were so many good players at Friday Night Lights. I could have written a humongous story on the top performers, but I chose to just zero in on the 6 guys or 7 guys that I thought were the absolute standouts of the camp. And Gavin Cupp copped out right away, flashed a ton in the trenches. Certainly, after Josh Myers was the best offensive lineman there. I'm really glad he got the offer. He obviously gambled big, and it paid off and for him, and he's going to get a chance to go play for the school he truly wanted to play for in Ohio State. And for Michigan State, for them to beat Ohio State year in and year out, they have to land guys that want to be Spartans, that have a chip on their shoulder, that are just pissed off that Ohio State didn't offer them, and they want to go down to Columbus and shove it up their rears. And if they think that they're getting a guy that doesn't truly want to be a Spartan, and he shows that he doesn't truly want to be a Spartan, and he just chose the Spartan because it was his best opportunity. And I'm not saying Gavin did it. I'm just saying I get it for why Michigan State cut ties. But for Gavin, I'm glad it worked out because he truly wanted to be a Buckeye. He didn't want to be a Spartan. and so it worked out all the way around.
No doubt. Since you mentioned him, let's end on hopefully a good note here. There's possibly no more guaranteed, not hype, but evaluation of a prospect since I've been here than Josh Myers at such a young age. Number one, lineman, offense or defense in his class. From what you saw of him, he's as advertised?
Yeah, I mean, he could be the best player in the country in his class. I don't know how it's going to shake out. Dylan Moses is one right now, but linebackers traditionally don't finish number one because they don't traditionally go number one in the draft, and that's what our rankings are based on, and people like it or not, that's what we're judged on. I'll argue that all day. When people bring up the high school football recruiting rankings, they compare it to the NFL. They're like, well, this team didn't have that many 5-stars, or how many 5-stars played in the Super Bowl, or how many made the Pro Bowl, or what rounds did they get drafted in. It's all NFL-based, so that's why we try and tailor our rankings to it. It's hard as hell because you're trying to rank kids when they're 16 and project them as NFL draft picks, but I think the more we see kids, the more camps they are, more opportunities to see the best go against the best. You get an opportunity to slot these kids better, and Josh Myers is already proving he is an elite guy. His offers that he landed were no projection, like we just need to get in and then we'll see later if we want him. He was an immediate take every time he got those offers, and he could be the best player in the country or the number one recruit in the country, because offensive tackles do get selected number one in the draft. And he may be very, very well be the best one in the country at his position. We think he is right now. Could that change? There's certainly a couple other guys that are in the discussion, but if he finishes as the number one offensive tackle, he's got a chance to finish as the number one recruit.
Let's end that on a good note. The Myers family, hearing about the draft, should be very excited for the next 6 or 7 years. Steve, we appreciate your joining us. Very interesting show, very interesting time on the recruiting front. We'll hear from you more on the front row, my brother. Thanks. Thank you.